Start or sit for the AFC home games, 7 games to break down today. Can Brian Thomas Jr. repeat his studly performance? Can Kamani Vidal repeat his studly performance? What are we going to get from Rashee Rice this week? Is this a Jerry Jeudy week? Finally, is J.K. Dobbins going to bounce back? Because as someone famously once said, here come the Giants. We welcome you to Fantasy Football today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Good morning, Jamey. You ready for week 7?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thursday night football. We got our start of the week tonight. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Heath, you ready for week 7?
It's so exciting to look at the standings and see like 75% of the league is between 2 and 4 and 4 and 2 in so many of my leagues. And it's kind of like the season starts now. It's exciting.
I thought you were talking about the NFL.
No.
Okay. Any undefeated teams, Heath? I know Jamey has one.
I do not. Had the podcast league, lost last week because I lost Puka.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. By the way, me, Dave, Jamey, Heath, we're all like top 5 in scoring in the podcast league. Bring it. Let's get to some players that we love. Jamey, Jaylen Warren. Talked about him yesterday. Jared Goff and Jameson Williams Monday night against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, Warren is in a great spot, obviously taking on the Bengals. We'll see how this goes tonight. I'm always hesitant to use the start of the week on Thursday, but we'll see how it goes. But 8 running backs have scored at least 14.1 PPR points against the Bengals. Cincinnati allowed 10 total touchdowns to the position. So Warren has it's funny. You talked about this before the year that Warren, I forget how many catches he had without catching a touchdown. He did that in week 1. He's yet to score a rushing touchdown this year. So we'll see if he can snap that streak and finally find the end zone. But I think it's worth, using Kenneth Gainwell as a flex as well, as Heath talked about on Tuesday or some point, maybe yesterday. I think we talked about on Tuesday and Wednesday. They've had, 8 running backs have been at 14.1 PPR points or more. 9 running backs have been in 11.5 PPR points or more against the Bengals. So they've actually had 3 teams where 2 running backs have been at 11.5 PPR points or more. So I think Gainwell could be a flex. He's been at 9.5 PPR points in 2 of his last 3 games, the third one being the breakout game against Minnesota. For the 2 Lions guys, this is the setup we love for these 2. Being at home in what should be a high-scoring affair. Goff, give him credit. His last 2 games on the road, he's been over 20 fantasy points. Tampa Bay obviously has been struggling a little bit in terms of their pass defense. I know they turned over Mac Jones twice last week, but they've given up over 300 yards passing each of their last 2 games. So Goff should have an opportunity for a big week in this matchup. And then Jameson Williams, I love the fact that he had a season high in targets last week. Finally looked like they're starting to get him going a little bit. And again, just based on the matchup and the opportunity, this should be one of the better games for Jameson Williams if the script follows as planned. And he's typically been better at home than on the road as well. So I like the setup for both of the Lions against Tampa Bay.
I'm going to give a stat that it's probably just very small sample size and doesn't matter, but it's going to make us feel better about Goff. We already feel good about Jared Goff. So you look at the implied total for the Buccaneers in this game, it's around 23 points. So I looked at how does Jared Goff do at home last year, because it hasn't happened yet this year, when the Lions give up 23 or more points. There were 3 instances. He scored 31 points, 28 points, and 51 points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. So if the Bucs do their part, Jared Goff should do his part.
He is averaging over 30 points per game at home. It's a little skewed because he had the huge game against the Bears and the crappy game against the Browns.
But he has that crazy high upside at home. It's exciting. All right, Heath, you love Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt at Dallas, Kamani Vidal against the Colts, and Chris Olave at Chicago.
Yeah, I think everybody was probably planning on starting Bill. He's been kind of a low-end RB2 for us most weeks. I've got him ranked as a high-end RB2 this week. One of the best rushers in the NFL, averaging 5.7 yards per carry on an efficiency basis. The Cowboys' run defense is awful, and this game has an over-under of 54.5. You would like to start as the highest one of the year so far. You would like to start as many Commanders and Cowboys as possible. Kamani Vidal, I don't think you should expect another Dolphins outburst, although it looks like I am quite a bit higher on him than Dave and Jamey. Well, the thing that I love is the fact that he had a 67% rush share in that game, 21 total touches, and it was not close who looked better between Vidal and Haskins. There should be no doubt he's the clear number one running back and a starter on your fantasy team this week. And number 3 is Chris Olave, who's averaging over 10 targets per game. The Bears are giving up over 2 fantasy points per target to opposing wide receivers. That math suggests boom week for Chris Olave.
All right, good stuff. Players to avoid. We'll go right back to Heath here. Chase Brown tonight, Tony Pollard against New England, and Darren Waller against Cleveland.
So I think 2 of these people are like, yeah, I'd like to get away from them, but I don't know if they can. They're workhorse running backs. How do you sit workhorse running backs? Chase Brown and Tony Pollard don't look like workhorse running backs anymore. Tyjae Spears actually played more than Pollard and was better than Pollard last week. And I think that might be like a game script thing where Spears is just in more when they're chasing the score. Guess what? They're the Titans. They're going to be chasing the score a lot. Chase Brown has seen his snap share, which was his best attribute last year as a player, fall to 55% in 3 of his last 4 games. Samaje Perine just continues to get more work. You do not want to start Chase Brown. And Darren Waller, this is probably the most controversial of the takes. You see Dave and Jamey both have him at 7th. You look at the Browns against tight ends, and it's like, oh, they're just middle of the pack. This is the one position that you can start against them. Jonnu Smith, just starting tight ends. Jonnu Smith, 4.8 points. TJ Hawkinson, 9.4. Sam Laporta, 6.9. Tucker Kraft, 5.9. Mark Andrews, 1.2. They've given up a bunch of points against tight ends. Not a bunch, a league average amount. Because Noah Fant, John Fitzpatrick, Josh Oliver, and Connor Hayward all scored touchdowns against them. The only tight end with more than 40 receiving yards against this defense, Washington. Maybe start Julian Hill.
Well, we need to bring this up with Waller. He's really not a tight end. He's lined up out wide on 44% of his routes. The next highest tight end is at 25%, right about. Right. So Waller's not going to be covered like a typical tight end. I don't know if that changes anything for you. He also has the highest ADOT of all tight ends who have like 10 or more targets. He only has 12 targets. So I had to lower the threshold there, but he's just he's a different player. He's basically their wide receiver too. I don't know if that means anything. Like for example, Derwin James was not covering Darren Waller last week. On a handful of occasions he was. So he's just different.
Well, wide receiver 2s haven't been good against the Browns either.
Yeah, that's true. All right. And for Jamey, it's Matthew Stafford in London at Jacksonville, Ken Walker against Houston Monday, and Tedero McMillan putting some sauce on him.
So Stafford, obviously having Devontae Adams is a big difference, but you go back to last year in the 5 games that he did not have Puka Nacua, he scored 14.8 fantasy points or less in each outing. So don't love the setup without Puka here. Struggled last week, obviously, when Puka left the field. And so we don't expect Puka to play. I know Jacksonville's defense has been obviously hit or miss in terms of quarterbacks, but I'm going to try to avoid Stafford if I can. In the case of McMillan, you mentioned it. Now, this is interesting because a lot of receivers have obviously faced Sauce Gardner already and done okay. For the most part, they've scored around 12 or more PPR points, but it's been somewhat touchdown related. Pickens needed a touchdown, for example, to help his day against Sauce. It's just one of those things where I think you just lower expectations. I probably have him a little bit too low by comparison to everybody else, but we've seen what he has been for the most part. He's got 1 game where he scored a touchdown. It was last week. He has 1 game over 13 PPR points prior to that. And I think we're going to see maybe in that 11 to 12 range at best if Sauce follows him as probably expected. We'll see if Jalen Coker plays as well. Maybe a second option there in the field. With Ken Walker, we've heard plenty of reports already that they're not going to change how they use their running back rotation. Houston's run defense is obviously very good. So for Walker, it's a flex option at best. I would prefer to sit him if I can.
Let's stay on Tedero McMillan here. This is the last game that I have scheduled for us to talk about today, Carolina at the Jets, which means we'll get to it in about 2.5 hours. Yeah, you did mention there are a lot of wide receivers getting the 12 fantasy point range against the Jets, the ones that get shadowed by.
There's only one that did not, which was Sutton.
Yeah. So you're talking about DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, who actually caught his touchdown on a different cornerback, not Gardner. Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 67 yards. George Pickens had the deep touchdown. He only had 4 targets. The thing is, like, McMillan just hasn't been good this year, really. I mean, he's been okay. He scored more than 13.3 fantasy points in one game. It was last week against the best matchup in fantasy where he had 29 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I don't know. You said you might be too low on him. You have him 30th. If I were ranking, I'd be with you. Dave and Heath have him like 20th, which isn't, a huge endorsement this week because wide receiver's so bad. But yeah, Heath, go ahead. Your thoughts on McMillan?
I think when we say he hasn't been good this year, we should say he hasn't produced great fantasy production.
Right, sure. Good
because when you shared that graphic yesterday about wide receivers and the predictivity of first downs and first downs per route run, it was a Tedero McMillan tweet.
I actually did not share it on this show. I just shared it with you, so people might not.
I was like, did I miss
we never got to it.
We never got to it. I thought you said we were going to put it on the show. We didn't put it on the show.
I did.
First downs and first downs per route run are very predictive of future fantasy success. Tedero McMillan's been a top 10 wide receiver in those categories. He has been very good. He hasn't produced a lot of fantasy points. But if he was playing a regular matchup, he'd be a top 12 wide receiver for me. So I have downgraded him down to wide receiver 20. I think that the history of Sauce Gardner so far suggests guys are going to be a little bit worse than they have been this year. So maybe he will be a little bit worse, but if he's a little bit worse in terms of the way he's played, it's just, does he score a touchdown or not? And there aren't 20 wide receivers that I feel great about this week.
Okay. It looks like Quentin Johnston might play this week. How many Chargers wide receivers would you start over McMillan?
Oh, I don't want to deal with that headache. Take one more week off Quentin Johnston. Probably
all 3 for me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be all 3. It'd probably be Ladd and Johnston.
Okay. All right. Well, that's Tedero McMillan. So number 2 wide receiver for Heath and Dave. Currently a number 3 wide receiver for Jamey.
He won't be a number 2 receiver. He may move up a spot or 2. He'll be outside the top 25.
Okay. Sunday at 8:30 in the morning, we have got a live show for you. 8:30 to 9:30 to set those lineups before the London game. Go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. You can see pretty much all of our content there. Click the live tab if you can't find one of our full-length episodes, and you'll see them there. And then after that, we take a little break. We watch some football, and then at 11 a.m. Eastern until noon Eastern, from noon to 1. Now, why would we do 11 to noon? That would make no sense. But noon to 1, we're back to answer your starter sit questions. And also today at 1 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Network, Dave, Jamey, and Heath breaking down the rankings. We're not really necessarily going to talk.
Robert Turbin.
Oh, and Robert Turbin. Excellent. We're not really going to talk trade today. That's the Wednesday thing. But I do have just some kind of rest of season notes on Ashton Genty, J.K. Dobbins, and Stephon Diggs, among others. So teasing that. That'll be coming up in today's show. But football fans, you got to picture something right now. You got to close your eyes and picture this. You bet on your favorite player to score the first touchdown in the game, but his teammate scores instead. Now, if this happens, BetMGM's got your back. They want to give you another chance at the end zone. With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you'll get your stake back if your first touchdown scorer scores second instead. So you bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. With BetMGM's second chance offer, you have a chance to keep the fun going after the first player crosses the goal line. Try a first touchdown scorer wager with confidence today. BetMGM, make it legendary. Quick email of the day from Jacob. If you feel a sneeze coming on, but it won't come out, try looking at a bright light. It can help trigger it. Jacob, thank you. I will try that. I still haven't gotten those sneezes back from Tuesday. Which
is nice because you have a bright light right in front of your face.
That is true.
I just looked at it. Yeah.
He's already looking at it. You're right. It didn't work.
Well, it did work.
Did it?
You didn't sneeze.
No, it's supposed to help you sneeze, the bright light.
I thought it's supposed to make you not sneeze.
No, it's supposed to bring the sneeze out.
Oh.
Didn't work.
I was told the opposite.
Well, look, I'm just going by what Jacob says, our emailer of the day.
What about plastic?
Oh, man. All right. So we have some news and notes. I think we should take a break. Let's take a break. Then we'll do news and notes. Wait till you see all the wide receiver news. My, oh, my. We'll be right back. Okay, let's fly through these. Here we go. Brock Purdy practiced. Who are you ranking at quarterback right now for San Francisco?
Brock Jones, Mac Purdy.
Okay, fluid situation. We'll see. Atlanta on Sunday night.
Steve Young.
JJ McCarthy, his ankle is not 100% yet. Carson Wentz practice in full. Who are you ranking at quarterback for Minnesota?
Carson Wentz.
No,
Philadelphia.
neither one. No, I guess Wentz is 22. So yeah, Wentz.
Kyler Murray was limited. We're going to keep an eye on that situation. Chuba Hubbard is going to be back this week. All signs point to that. He expects to play. They want to be a run-heavy team. We don't know what the split's going to be. That game is, again, the last game we're talking about is Rico Dowdle a top 24 running back?
If Chuba is back,
yes,
he will be a low-end number 2 running back, and Chuba will be a flex.
All right, you got to decide tonight, and it really looks like Chuba Hubbard is back this week. It's so Rico Dowdle or running back tonight.
Warren, Dowdle, Chase Brown.
Yeah, I'll probably. I will have Dowdle ahead of Chase Brown for sure. I would say I'll probably have Warren ahead of him too.
Okay. Zonovan Knight was limited. Amari DiMercado missed practice. Cardinals have Green Bay this week. Alvin Kamara missed practice, but he's fine. He's going to miss Wednesday practices, I think, pretty regularly. Okay, here we go. You know the scene in Liar Liar where Jim Carrey gets pulled over for the speeding ticket and speaks really, really fast? That's kind of how I envision the wide receiver notes right now. Garrett Wilson and Josh Reynolds missed practice. Josh Reynolds missed practice for the Jets. Calvin Ridley missed practice. Calvin Austin is out tonight. Tutu Atwell was limited for the Rams. We expect him to play. Puka Nacua not expected to play. DJ Moore missed practice. Jerry Jeudy was limited. Hopefully he'll be fine. Darnell Mooney was limited. Maybe he makes it back this week at San Francisco Sunday night. Josh Downs is in the concussion protocol. You cannot expect to be starting Josh Downs at this point. That was a little bit of a surprise. Rashee Rice, Andy Reid didn't say how much Rashee Rice would play, but ESPN reports that Rice is going to get a full workload this week. For Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. was limited, but he's still in the concussion protocol. Zay Jones missed practice, and Michael Wilson was limited. Jacoby Myers missed practice with toe and knee injuries. Christian Watson was limited. Darius Slayton missed practice. Not expecting him at the moment. Dave mentioned it's a little Jordan Humphrey revenge game. Don't forget about that. Quentin Johnston was limited. Jacksonville plans to get Travis Hunter more involved. You might want to see if he's available on your waiver wire. CeeDee Lamb was limited. I think Kevontae Turpin was limited as well. We've been ranking CeeDee Lamb. We're expecting him. Same with Mike Evans. Jalen Coker is expected to play this week. Woohoo! Terry McLaurin is going to practice this week. Noah Brown is on IR for Washington. And Ricky Pearsall missed practice. Juwan Jennings was limited. While speeding! Right? That's the end of that. Thank you.
I thought this was a good response to that section.
What was it?
But I'm supposed to sit.
Yeah. Like you're not going to start Jerry Jeudy over Tedderell McMillan, are you?
No, but they're 5 spots apart from me.
You're not going to start Jalen Coker over Tedderell McMillan, are you?
No.
All right. Travis Hunter?
No. Come on.
Okay. Kendrick Bourne?
Yes.
As of now, no, assuming Kittle's back.
Right. Oh, speaking of tight ends, David Njoku missed practice. Brock Bowers missed practice. Right now, we're not expecting them. George Kittle practiced. We're hoping he's back. Jatavion Sanders was limited. And Tanner Hunt, okay, for Thursday night, any interest in Noah Fant now? You got Gesicki out. You got Tanner Hudson out. You got, I think, Pittsburgh bad against tight ends, if I recall. Let's see.
I think I noticed when I was doing waivers, he was towards the top of the tight ends in the projections.
They are bad. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he plays well. He's a good DFS play for those of you who do Thursday night slates, but he's not at the top of my streaming list with all the guys that are available this week.
All right, fine. Offensive line, Giants center John Michael Schmitz is in the concussion protocol. Dallas guard Tyler Booker was limited. Dallas getting pretty healthy. Jacksonville, hopefully they get their center Robert Hainsey back. I was reading, I think on ESPN, they had a lot of trouble running the ball last week without Hainsey, but he was limited. Austin Corbett for the Panthers, he practiced in full. He has missed the last 4 games, so that's great news. Defensively, Trey Hendrickson is questionable for tonight's game for Cincinnati. Philly's getting healthier. Jalen Carter practiced in full. Cornerback Quinion Mitchell was limited. That's big news for them as they're at Minnesota. Detroit, Brian Branch's 1-game suspension was upheld, but they should be getting Aleem McNeil back. Dan Campbell said their star defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, is freaking playing this week. He tore his ACL last year. Tennessee defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat is designated to return from IR. Their run defense has already gotten better. It's going to get a lot better when he comes back. And the Colts have been really bad against wide receivers, but Kenny Moore, slot corner, he missed the last 3 games. He was limited. One question for each game. Rams are at the Jaguars this game in London. Starter sit Brian Thomas Jr.
I would start him. His last game in Wembley Stadium was good last year. So 5 for 50 and a touchdown, I believe. Looked good last week. Looked good actually the last 2 weeks, and starting to play a little bit more like the Brian Thomas we were hoping to see. So I think if this was a normal week, everybody healthy, is probably a high-end number 3 receiver. But I think just given the fact of what he's shown the last 2 games and how this game could potentially unfold, number 1 receivers have actually done well against the Rams this year. So I think there's an opportunity for Thomas to continue that and hopefully build off what we saw last week.
I have him ranked in the exact same spot that Jamey does. So everything Jamey said.
McMillan or BTJ?
Thomas for me.
Still McMillan for me.
Colts are at the Chargers. All right. Quentin Johnston being limited. We don't know if he's going to play, but would you start any of the Chargers wide receivers over Kamani Vidal?
If Johnston returns, no, I'd start Vidal over all of them. But if there is no Johnston, I'd go McConkey, Vidal, Keenan.
I will start Vidal over all of them.
Miami is at Cleveland. Is it Jerry Jeudy week?
He's got a shot.
If not now, never.
Yeah. You're on my roster for 1 more week, Jerry Jeudy.
I believe he's a South Florida kid, if I'm not mistaken. I can look that up.
Oh, he is.
Yep.
He's played the Dolphins 3 times, I believe. 2 of them have been very good games.
Okay. Let's see. Heath, you still have 100 shares of Jerry Jeudy?
6.
Okay, I'm going to be starting him. Ooh, yeah, I'll start him over Tutu Atwell. I'll start him over Cameron Johnson, and Marvin Mims, and Michael Carter. Okay. Yeah, that team's not doing so great, you might imagine. We've got Las Vegas at Kansas City. Would you start a Raiders wide receiver or Xavier Worthy?
Worthy.
I might have Trey Tucker 1 spot ahead of him.
Oh.
Let's see. I have Worthy 2 spots ahead of Tucker.
All right. Xavier Worthy it is. Let me just bring this up. How you guys encouraged by Pacheco? What did you make of Pacheco? He got his first 3 snaps inside the 5-yard line. He ran 5 routes on 3rd down last week. He had run a combined 4 routes on 3rd down in the first 5 games of the season. Do you think it's because maybe Kareem Hunt got a little banged up in the game, or do you think they're giving Pacheco more work, important work?
I would love to see them give Pacheco more work just to see if he could maybe do something with it. But this is the team that gives up rushing touchdowns and little else. And if they're going to give up rushing touchdowns, it probably is going to be Kareem Hunt doing it. So I don't want to trust Pacheco just yet.
It was a season high 13 touches. So,
yeah, no, but it was more important that he got actually on the field on downs where he can score some fantasy points. We'll see if that was just a blip.
I think, yeah, if you told me that Kareem Hunt had 50 total yards and scored a touchdown this week, and scored 12 fantasy points, I wouldn't be surprised. He's someone you might flex.
All right, Giants are at Denver. Are you starting any Giants?
Scatterboo.
Scatterboo's a low-end RB2. Wandale's a high-end wide receiver 3.
Scatterboo or Dowdle, assuming Chubbard plays.
Probably be Scatterboo.
Scatterboo.
All right, the Patriots are at the Titans. Is Drake May the only must-start player in this game?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think Diggs is close, but number 3 receiver at best. So I would say May's probably the only one that qualifies. Patriots DST.
No, there you go. Yeah, I guess I'll just give my quick Stephon Diggs sort of rest of season thing here. Last week was such a bad game for him, and I have trouble with this stat, but the Saints are actually really, really good against slot wide receivers. Going into the game, they were allowing the second fewest receiving yards to slot wide receivers. They did well against Wan'Dale Robinson, Cooper Kupp, now Stephon Diggs. So maybe it was a bad matchup for him. But Heath, you mentioned that first down stat, wide receivers who gain a lot of first downs. They typically, it's a good indicator for future fantasy points. That was a Jacob Gibbs tweet citing Ryan Heath of fantasy points data. So I looked at the list of last year's leaders and this year's leaders, and you do get, some of the studs on there, the Pukas of the world, whatever. But Stephon Diggs is also a name that was on there last year and this year in terms of first downs per route run. So I thought that was interesting, Heath.
I will say that's very interesting. And I think don't sit him just because of last week. He's a high-end wide receiver 3 for me. I also think that the total first downs are more predictive than the first downs per route run.
No, well, he's probably not that high there because he hasn't played.
Because he doesn't run as many routes, and you don't score as many fantasy points if you don't run as many routes.
But last week he had 71% route rate.
Right.
We would hope for better. 3 weeks ago he had an 82% route rate, then it went down to 64%. So I would like to say buy low on Diggs, but I would say that it's just I don't know that people really love Diggs, so you might be able to get him for pretty cheap.
And we just don't know that this offense is going to function with a true number one alpha wide receiver. It just kind of bounces around between guys depending on the matchup, which is probably a good way to do it.
All right, Carolina's at the Jets. Start or sit Justin Fields.
Low end starter for me.
I can't. This is a guy I probably have almost as much of as I have Jerry Jeudy. So in super flex leagues, obviously you're going to have to start him. Who's he throwing to? And can he score 20 fantasy points without throwing? Maybe.
Yeah.
You want me to give my Azer stat?
Oh, this is some Azer stat right here.
So he's had 3 games over 29 fantasy points, right? His 3 best games of the season. If you take out Garrett Wilson's production in those games, and I rounded up all 3 of them, so it's 10, 10, and 9. We had like a 95-yard game and a touchdown. So take out the yards and the touchdown. He would be averaging almost exactly 20 fantasy points per game. That's with no replacement value whatsoever. So just taking Garrett Wilson's numbers off the table. So looking at this Panthers defense, you said, can he do it without throwing the ball? I mean, he's obviously going to throw the ball. So can he cobble together, let's just say, 15 fantasy points as a passer? And the reason I bring that number up is there have been 2 quarterbacks that have run for 3.4 fantasy points, or have scored 3.4 fantasy points or more with just their rushing totals alone against the Panthers. I think Fields can get there. So if he can be in that 4 to 5 point per game range, 4 to 5 points with his rushing totals.
But that's just an Azer.
Can he get you 15 or so fantasy points with his passing? I think he'll be around 20 fantasy points.
But that's how I feel, is like that was a lot of gymnastics to can we get him to score 20 fantasy points?
Yeah, that's right. And
normally I'm thinking, man, if things go right for Justin Fields, he might score 30. And now it feels like, man, if everything goes right, he might get us to 20.
Well, it feels like that's where Sportsline has it.
Yeah.
Sportsline has him 6th. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, look, he's had big games without great receivers before, but this is the worst roster right now. My goodness. Okay, let's go to the games. Actually, Heath, we can decide Jackson Dart or Justin Fields, 4 point per passing touchdown.
It would definitely be Justin Fields.
Okay, probably. Rams are at the Jaguars. Stat of the game: the Rams have not allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back yet. But here's good news for ETN and something to think about for his rest of season value. His targets have gone up lately. It is directly coinciding, coincidence or not, I don't think coincidence, with the absence of Brenton Strange. Trevor Lawrence's target percentage to tight ends has plummeted since the Strange injury, and some of it's going to Travis Etienne. Do you guys like Travis Etienne? In fact, why don't we just talk about the 2 running backs? Because the Jaguars have a very good run defense. The Rams, again, haven't given up a rushing touchdown to a running back. Etienne struggled last week. Are these guys easy starts, Jamey?
Definitely, they're starters. I like Williams better than Etienne. I think just in the case of Etienne, like if he doesn't score, and clearly he could, but just based on the track record, like I thought when the Ravens, for example, got down inside the 3 last week, whatever it was, and Derrick Henry had been playing very well, like they just did not let him in the end zone, and they tried for sure. Baltimore did.
Well, they tried with Mark Andrews last week, right? That was when they
tried both.
switched.
I mean,
right.
I think just in the case of how this game could go, like Etienne's is a startable number 2 running back, but when he's been bad, and so I don't know if this is going to be one of his best games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scatterboo or Etienne, Heath?
Etienne over Scatterboo, Kyron over both of them by quite a bit. I'm hopeful that maybe we see a little bump in targets for Kyron Williams. He has one big reception game with Puka not there to throw to. Maybe we get 4 catches for Kyron instead of 2.
Yeah. Hopeful is the way to do it. You shouldn't bank on it because last year he played 5 games without Puka and 4.5 of those games without Kupp. And he had some games with catches and some games with like a 0. So
the nice thing is he doesn't have a 0 this year, and he has at least 2 in each of his last 5 games.
Yeah.
There's also the potential of no Blake Corum, who's been limited in practice. And so do they give him all the work, or do they actually mix in Jarquez Hunter?
How do you feel about the quarterbacks, Heath? Stafford and Lawrence? Who do you like better?
I don't want to start Trevor Lawrence at all. Stafford is a borderline QB1. I really struggle with Stafford versus Rodgers. Those guys in the 10, 11, 12 range, Stafford versus Bo Nix, Stafford versus Daniel Jones. But right now I've got him as a low end starter.
Interesting. Okay. So, Jamey, do you have Stafford as a starter?
I do not. Again, we started the show with 3 players I don't like, and Stafford's one.
So that's a no then. Okay. Heath, without Puka, you still all right. Who are some guys you're starting Stafford over?
Well, again, I don't think it's a very good. I would say there's probably 10 quarterbacks this week that I actually want to start, and Matthew Stafford is not one of them. I've got him right now 1 spot ahead of Rodgers, who's my 12th quarterback. So that tells you quite a bit about the position. I would start him over Nix. I would start him over Jones. I would start him over Fields.
Okay. All right. And Jamey is just not feeling it. 17th for Matthew Stafford. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams is an easy one. We're going to start Devontae Adams. Brian Thomas Jr. is a number 2 wide receiver. We're going to mostly start him. Etienne or Brian Thomas Jr., who do you like better?
I would go Thomas and PPR.
I think I have ETN just a little bit higher. But Thomas probably has more upside. It's just hard to trust it. Yeah, ETN for me.
Who are the sleepers in this game?
Jordan Whittington.
If there's no Tutu Atwell, I would agree. If Tutu Atwell plays, I would take Atwell over Whittington.
Is there why?
I think there's going to be opportunities for him to be on the field, and when he's been on the field and gotten targets, he's been productive.
And he is a kind of a big play.
Higbee too.
Higbee, yeah, we'll talk about Higbee in a second. So Atwell last year, his big play rate, his explosive play rate, 25.8%. So 26% of his targets ended up in big plays, which I think is 17 or more yard catch. Puka Nacua was 26.4%. So they were almost even. And Tutu Atwell was 7th best among wide receivers with 50 or more targets. The Jaguars give up almost, I think the Cowboys are the only team that consistently give up more big plays than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So in that respect, it's a good matchup for Atwell. Not that he's a must start by any means. Heath, you prefer Whittington?
I think right now I do. Let's see what Tutu's health status is later in the week.
Okay. And then Higbee, in a week full of good tight end sleepers, where did he end up in your rankings, Jamey?
Higbee? He's around like tight end 16 or 17. It's not a lot of confidence, obviously, because he's had one good game, but there's an opportunity here against a defense that I think he could have some success against. So he's in that low end streaming conversation. I'd put him ahead of Noah Fant, but that's, not saying very much. So like Fannon's ahead of him. I'm struggling between him and Mayer just because of the matchup for Mayer, but like I'd take Ingram over him, for example, if given the choice. But I think Higbee's a great streaming option if you're stuck.
All right, that's pretty much it for this game. The Rams DST, I really hate this week for DSTs because some of the good ones have bad matchups, like the Rams. Jacksonville, they are a pretty tough matchup. They're 11th against DSTs. They did get sacked 7 times last week, but before that, they really weren't giving up a lot of sacks. but you're going to start the Rams DST. I have a few comments for this game. Stafford or Lawrence? I think we answered that. So
Stafford.
I'm not so far off. Lawrence has played very well the last 2 weeks. His fantasy production has been good in the last 2 weeks. So wouldn't surprise me if Lawrence is better. I probably would still start Stafford, but they're close for me.
Stafford, Purdy, or McCarthy?
Purdy if he starts.
Purdy if he starts.
Goff, Rodgers, or Stafford?
In that order.
I'd go Goff.
Yeah. Heath would go Goff, Stafford, Rodgers. Jamey would go Goff, Rodgers, Stafford. All right, next game. Colts at Chargers. Ooh, I've got a fun little surprise for you guys. Let's break out the tier maker.
Yes.
We're going to put
You
players
said that in the chat. It's not really a surprise.
Surprise. I was talking to the audience, Jamey. All right, so if you're watching, we've got 5 tiers, and we've got basically every player in this game. Tier 1 is going to be what? At must start, not even a question.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, who's in tier 1? Jonathan Taylor's in tier 1. Anyone else?
I feel like if we're putting Jonathan Taylor in tier 1, he should be by himself. 2 can also be guys we're starting.
Based on your rankings, I feel like, am I wrong? Justin Herbert, well,
I think Taylor deserves to be in tier 1 by himself.
Okay.
Tier 2 is going to be an interesting one.
All right. Well, Tyler Warren's in tier 1, right?
No, not this week.
You're not sitting Tyler Warren. I know he's going to.
No, I don't think tier 2 you're sitting.
Okay, so tier 2 is your must start, but not
tier 1 is you're counting on this guy to win you your week.
Okay. Tier 2 is must start. So let's throw Tyler. We're good with Warren in tier 2.
Absolutely.
Yep. And Herbert. And I'd say Vidal.
And I would say Pittman.
Oh, wait just a minute there. I'm not sure.
Without Josh Downs there, yes, 100%.
Heath is very low on Michael Pittman.
It was late last night, I think, or mid last night. I haven't updated with Josh Downs out yet. I don't know that I'll get Pittman quite that high, but I wouldn't argue too much. He's probably going to be a tier 3 guy for me.
Okay. So, but he can't be the only wide receiver, because that means he's the best wide receiver in this game. He can't be the only one in tier 2.
So again, are we saying Johnston is in or Johnston is out?
Yeah, that's a tough one here. I think, look, I think let's rank him as if Johnston's in, because if Johnston's out, we know that Ladd McConkey is a tier 2 guy at that point. Like, he is an absolute must start. And Keenan Allen would get a bump too. Although, I mean, you got to look at Keenan Allen. The yards are just not there for him. It's like he better score a touchdown. But this is a much harder game if Quentin Johnston plays. So if Quentin Johnston plays, where are we putting the Chargers wide receivers?
If Quentin Johnston plays, I think you put all 3 in tier 3 and Michael Pittman in tier 3.
I love that. Put all 4 wide receivers in tier 3.
Which means what to you exactly?
Maybe starts.
I don't know which of these guys is going to be better.
Right. I mean, realistically, Johnston, Pittman, McConkey, and Keenan Allen are going to be started in certainly more than half the leagues, probably 70%.
That's exactly the number I was going to say. I would say all 4 of these guys are probably going to be 70% started or more.
And do we put Vidal in 2 or 3? I'd put him in 2.
Vidal, for the purpose of what this week is, he goes into.
Yeah, right. So we feel more confident in Kamani Vidal than we do the wide receivers, basically, is what we're saying here.
Yeah, you asked us that question before, and we told you that, yeah.
I know. But look, I mean, that was honestly 30 minutes ago, but no, 20. Yeah, but it changes, because I think one of you said if Johnston's out, you're going to start McConkey over Vidal.
Yes.
I'd put McConkey in tier 2 if Johnston was out.
Correct.
Now, what's the deal with Warren? If you have Warren, you don't need to look for replacements, but the Chargers have been elite against tight ends. This is, Kelsey, 47 yards and a touchdown. Bowers, 38 yards. Ertz, 1 target. Waller, 3 targets, caught a touchdown. Theo Johnson did catch a touchdown, but they've been really, really good. But he's Tyler Warren, obviously. All right, now, before we get to Daniel Jones, I do want to ask you about Herbert, because he had a solid game against the Dolphins. And the Colts have not really been a tough matchup at all. They haven't stopped any good quarterbacks. But I don't know. I don't really roll out of bed feeling that good about Justin Herbert right now with the state of their offensive line. And I don't think he just hasn't been that good. Like, before last week, he had 3 straight games with less than 17 fantasy points. And last week he played the Dolphins.
Well, so the way that I kind of view this passing game with Johnston or without Johnston, I don't think Vidal is going to be as good. He was great against Miami. And yes, the Colts matchup is not that difficult, but I also think that it's going to be tougher for him because that defense is better. So I would expect a little bit more out of Justin Herbert this week. And so I think he has one of his better games. Now, does that mean he's close to what he was in weeks 1 and 2? He was MVP level at that point. I think he's probably in that 22 to 24 point per game range. So the floor is what we got last week.
It's just so hard when a guy that we think is very talented and is throwing 36 passes a game to not rank him as a must start. There was a couple of bad weeks. Definitely had some touchdown problems, 3 straight weeks with just 1 touchdown. But I think he's probably going to throw for more than 250 yards and throw 2 touchdown passes, and that's a pretty close to a must start type quarterback.
Okay. I kind of like Daniel Jones this week. Do you guys?
No.
All right. What tier is he going in?
4.
Tier 4. Maybe starter.
Okay. So Daniel Jones, 16th for Jamey, 14th for Heath, 10th for Dave, coming off a big game against Arizona. It's fine. You guys can sit him.
I mean, just for what it's worth, he has not been good on the road. His fantasy production has not been good on the road. And the Chargers have been very good against quarterbacks.
The Chargers, 5th best against quarterbacks. Bo Nix, they held to 15.4 points. Jaden Daniels, 19.1. Tua, 8.6. You're absolutely right. It is a tough matchup. Stafford, Lawrence, and Daniel Jones. Who's your favorite?
Jones.
Stafford for me.
Okay.
It would be Stafford if Puka plays.
All right, but that's kind of where they're at. They're just not enthused about him. All right, so it gives us Thomas, let's throw Daniel Jones in tier 4. Let's throw Hassan Haskins in tier 5.
Yep.
What about Oronde Gadsden?
I think Gadsden belongs in tier 4.
With the 17 other maybe starters at tight end.
Yeah. Now, well, I'll say this. Gadsden belongs in tier 4 if Johnston is out. If Johnston plays, then Gadsden's tier 5.
And then the last one is a tough one. Obviously, he has to play because he's in the concussion protocol right now. But where would you put Josh Downs?
Tier 4.
Yeah, I'd probably have Downs and Pittman in tier 4 if Downs was playing.
Okay. So should we talk about Pittman a little bit more? I mean, Heath, I know what your concern is. I mean, the targets just haven't really been there for him, and he just had a terrible game, and he didn't score. So that's it, right? I mean,
41 or fewer receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 games.
Wow.
Like, it's just
touchdowns.
If Downs is out, then you just probably forget about that and assume that he's got 2 games this year with more than 6 targets. 6 targets does not make a must-start fantasy wide receiver. But I would assume if Downs is out, he's going to have more than 6 targets, and he's going to be someone you start.
All right.
I'll go back to, I like narratives. USC guy, last time he played in Los Angeles earlier this season, week 4, he had 10 targets in that game. So they were trying to get him clearly involved. Number 1 receivers against the Chargers this season: the great Marquise Brown, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, and Jalen Waddle. I only bring up Marquise Brown because he had a billion targets in that game in Brazil. 15.5 PPR points or more against this defense.
Yeah. So that's I mean, that's like you're talking about the Chargers against wide receivers, right?
The Chargers against number 1 wide receivers have been bad, and Pittman clearly will be the number 1 wide receiver. And if we're going based on how teams approach the Chargers, we see the targets down for the tight ends. And so if the targets are down for Warren and there's no Josh Downs, obviously Daniel Jones is going to lean on Michael Pittman.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm losing a little faith in Keenan Allen. I don't know how you guys feel about that. 3 straight games, I think, under 60 yards. 2 of those games way under 60 yards. Just
targets haven't gone away, though.
Yeah. He's been pretty touched. He's been kind of like Pittman with more targets, but like just very touchdown dependent. Let's see, who would we start over him? How about some running backs versus Keenan Allen? Would you start Travis Etienne or Keenan Allen? It's just really hard. Why don't we talk about this tomorrow when we get another Quentin Johnston update, because it changes everything.
And I think, like, to say that he's not really been like the last 2 of the last 3 games have been like Michael Pittman. But he's still at 58 or more yards in 4 of 6 games this year, and 3 of his last 5.
Yeah, I guess I just meant the touchdowns really help.
Right.
Both of them.
You had 3 in the first 3 weeks and 0 in the last 3. I don't know how predictive that is. I think it's probably 50-50.
Would you start DST in this game?
Colts as a low-end starter just because of the Chargers' offensive line, so they'll probably get some sacks, but I would prefer to avoid. I certainly would prefer to avoid the Chargers. I mean, the one thing about the Colts, they don't turn the ball over. 3 turnovers on the season, I believe, or 4 at most. I think it's 3 interceptions and 1 fumble, or maybe 2 interceptions and 1 fumble, and they don't give up sacks. I think it's 5 sacks allowed on the season.
Yeah.
So it's not a great matchup for the Chargers, and they were great last week. 3 interceptions against Tua, but this is one I think you get away from. I just say this about the Chargers receivers. Like, the Colts have been bad against wide receivers.
Yes, they are getting Kenny Moore back. Well, maybe getting Kenny Moore back, but you're absolutely right. 3rd most fantasy points allowed to receivers. I don't think their defense is that good. It was good statistically, but I think like Arizona with Jacoby Brissett put up a pretty big number. Anyway, I will call my shot and say I think Daniel Jones is going to do well, but I totally understand where you guys are coming from. And the reason he's having such a good season is he is the least sacked quarterback, his sack rate, and he's one of the most blitzed quarterbacks. It's not just the offensive line. The offensive line is good, but he's also making good decisions this year, getting rid of the ball. That's a number that really jumps out.
I wish I knew what the secret sauce was of, is Daniel Jones going to be participating in the running game or not? Because Jamey mentioned he's been bad on the road. He's also those are the games he didn't run.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a break. We got 5 more games left. We'll speed it up a bit. We'll be right back with Miami and Cleveland. We are back. Miami's at Cleveland. Stat of the game number 1. The Dolphins have allowed 16.1 or more PPR fantasy points to a running back in 5 straight games. Ramondre Stevenson, James Cook, Breece Hall, Rico Dowdle, and Kamani Vidal. Do you think Quinshon Judkins will score 16.1 or more PPR fantasy points?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, he is tier 1 then. We don't need the tier maker for that. Start Quinshon Judkins. Stat of the game number 2. The Dolphins have allowed 65 yards or a touchdown to a tight end in 5 of 6 games. Woo! Oh, man. You wouldn't start Harold Fannin over Tyler Warren, would you?
No.
I believe they're back-to-back for me.
All right, but we like Harold Fannin. Where is he in the rankings? Heath, Fannin over everyone?
I think he's 8.
All right, start him. Which Dolphins are you starting confidently? For Heath, it's probably going to be 2 guys. For Jamey, 3.
Achane and Waddle.
Achane and Waddle.
And?
Waller.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about Waller? You have faith in Waller this week?
No, I think you said it. I mean, he's not a traditional tight end. So with what this team looks like right now, how I expect this game to be, I don't think that this is not a Achane's going to run well game. This is a Achane's going to have to be effective in the passing game. And so I don't think the Dolphins are like chasing points at the scoreboard, but I think they're playing from behind. And so based on that, I think Waller's targets will be closer to where they've been prior to last week. 5 or 6.
The tight end with the highest ADOT is not my friend. I hate that. But
yeah, and I don't like really a high ADOT against the Browns pass rush. And I think like most tight ends have to score a touchdown to be good for fantasy, especially guys that are outside the top 3 or 4. And the Dolphins, like for the first time all year, the Browns are favored. The Dolphins have an implied total of 18.
And it's a really tough matchup for Achane. I mean, this team is incredible against running backs. They were great against Jacobs. They were great against Henry. They were great against good against Jordan Mason, good against the Steelers guys. The only guys that really got them, the only guy was Gibbs. You can't sit Achane.
Nope.
But this could be his worst game. Okay, on the other side of the ball, Judkins is a must start. Where's Judy this week? Where's Judy this week? Heath.
Wide receiver 40-ish, maybe closer to like somewhere between 36 and 40. That I don't really understand it, but it's kind of a thing that's going around the entire Browns offense right now, is they just drop so many passes. And Judy's had plenty of opportunities. He gets 8 targets in a lot of games. I think he had 13 last week, but he's playing terrible football right now and visibly frustrated about it. Hopefully he catches the ball. Like, it doesn't really do any good to have terrible coverage and be wide open if you're still going to drop it.
Yeah, no, he had a couple of drops last week. The team had a lot of drops last week. They really let Dylan Gabriel down. Judy had a chunk play, probably about 20 yards called back on a penalty. but he had those 13 targets.
And the joke was probably not there.
Right. Yeah. And Njoku's out, most likely. So Fannin, Jamey, who are some guys you'd start Fannin over?
I'd start him over Kelsey. I'd start him over Waller. I'd start him over Laporta. I'd start him over Goddard. I'd start him over a lot of guys. I mean, 14 targets in his last 2 games. Obviously, a big spike game last week after Njoku got hurt early in the game. Dolphins are terrible against tight ends. Like, this should be a great game for Harold Fannin.
Just to that Browns point, Trevor Lawrence leads all quarterbacks this year with 16 passes dropped. Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel have had 20 passes dropped.
Oh my, yeah, wild. I mean, they throw a lot, so that's
right.
But that's wild. Good stat. Heath has Fannin ahead of Tucker Kraft. Jamey has them back to back with Kraft 1 spot higher. Okay, is there anything I'm missing in this game? Like Tua? Any interest in Tua?
No, I mean, coming off the disappointing game he just had and now having to face the Browns. I mean, this is the Mike McDaniel gets fired game. You know, you hate to say that, but after everything that's unfolded, they lose this game. I can't imagine he survives. So he had to backtrack off of what he said last week. Like, this is just disaster in Miami right now. Absolute disaster.
I think they're going to fire their defensive coordinator. And then
there was a report that Ross is not firing McDaniel, right? Like, maybe he will, but
lose to the Browns, and depending on in what fashion.
I don't have Tua as the highest ranked left-handed quarterback in this game.
Oh, thank you for saying that. This is the first matchup between 2 left-handed quarterbacks in 19 years. And we're going to get another one next week, Tua versus Penix. So
maybe.
Yeah, we're scheduled to have one. All right, yeah, if there's any questions in the chat about this game, fire away. Okay, here we go. Here's one. Judkins, Dowdle, Javonte, and Henderson. Start 2.
Well, 1 should not be in the conversation. It would be Judkins and Javonte for me very easily.
Yes. We're gonna.
Even if there's no Chuba Hubbard, that would be the answer.
So if there was no Chuba Hubbard, it would be Dowdle and Judkins.
You'd start Dowdle over Javonte?
I think I have Dowdle over Javonte right now.
Interesting, because you love Javonte.
I do.
I mean, I'd start Dowdle over. Well, whatever. I'm pretty sure Chuba's going to play. So
they're all 3 in my top 7. So it's like without Chuba. So with Chuba, Dowdle's going to fall. But
yeah, I like Dowdle as well. But I think Javonte has
Fannin or Kraft is a question. Heath has Fannin. Jamey has Kraft 1 spot ahead of Fannin. How about this one? Fannin or Kittle?
Kittle.
Okay. Achane. Oh, this is a good one. Achane or Rashad White?
Still Achane.
Yep.
All right. Next game. What do we got? Oh, DST. You like the Browns DST?
Very much so.
Yes.
Okay. Las Vegas is at Kansas City. All right. So here's a kind of rest of season Ashton Genty note, stat of the game. Genty has only 3 games with more than 2 targets, and 2 of them have been without Brock Bowers. He has had by far his 2 highest target shares of the season, with Brock Bowers being out. But Geno Smith's tight end target rate was low in one of those games and high in the other. Like, he's threw to Michael Mayer last week, and he still threw to Genty. But my point is, he's only had 1 great game, and it was against the Bears, one of the best matchups. We were worried about him earlier because he wasn't catching any passes. I'm just wondering if we're looking at maybe a time to sell Ashton Genty. The schedule's not really great. They've got to bye next week. You know what I'm saying? Bowers comes back. Did the catches go away? Thoughts rest of season, Heath?
I still think he's a borderline RB1 rest of season. And I think, like, the way you framed it, he's only had 1 great game is true. But after that great game, he scored 15.9 points against the Colts. And then the next week he scored 16.6 against the Titans. Like, it's 3 straight games with at least 15.9 PPR fantasy points. I feel pretty good about that guy.
I think if you're selling Genty, it's got to be for superstar. And so, like, if you're looking at a team that needs running backs and you have them, and you need wide receivers and they have them, like, could you turn Genty into Puka right now with the 2-week absence of Puka?
Yeah, I mean, no.
Like,
Genty has a bye next week, so
Well, they both do, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the type of thing you explore, I guess, if you're in those rare situations. But I mean, again, if you're giving up on what Genty has been and still could be, like, you got to get something amazing in return.
He hasn't really been that good. That's what I'm saying. I mean, first 3 games were terrible.
But that's also a rookie running back getting, ramped up.
It's also a bad situation. It's a crappy team with a bad offensive line. And, one of the games where Heath said he had 15.9 points. He had 5 catches in that game. My point is that going to still be on the table when Bowers comes back? I think.
How many catches did he have last week?
2.
Okay, so I think that's probably better indication because Mayer played.
Yeah,
Mayer's not Bowers.
He had 23 carries last week. They won, right? They played Tennessee. They won. So all right, look, fine.
They threw 23 passes last week. So
yeah, but you go back to the Chicago game, and since then, Geno's not been throwing the ball very much. Like, they're scared of Geno.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think they're going to have the option to just run the ball this week.
Who we starting in this game? Las Vegas at Kansas City.
Mahomes, Rice. I would still start Worthy. Kelsey's a low-end starter still. Chiefs DST, and Genty.
Adam, when you said I agree with all that. I think Michael Mayer is probably the hardest player to rank. And then I would start Tucker over Myers. Tucker is a wide receiver 3. When you said the Rashee Rice ESPN report.
Yeah.
I thought I read they were going to give him a heavy workload as soon as possible.
I'll go for
I can say this week or as soon. I'm a little lower on Rice. He's still a number 2 wide receiver for me. I'm still starting him in most places. But I do think it's worth remembering it wasn't just the suspension. Like, he did have fairly significant knee injury and hasn't played football for more than a year. We've seen a lot of guys come back from injuries a little bit slow. He hasn't practiced until this week for a month and a half.
Okay, well, this is from either Graziano or
Jeremy
Fowler. The Chiefs won't be easing Rashee Rice back into action. They will be allocating a heavy workload for him as soon as possible.
Well, did you hear Andy Reid's answer?
And then, hold on. There's a team source says Rice will be, quote, full bore this week.
Oh, okay. There we go. I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Did you hear Andy Reid's answer about that?
I thought he kind of was non-committal on it.
He said, just go ask Jeremy Fowler.
That's so funny. All right, yeah. So Rashee Rice, I mean, is tough to rank. I think if people are going to have questions. So where do you have him, Jamey? Heath says got him as a number 2.
I have him, I think 12 or 13. Like, I'm like, we've been waiting for this for 6 weeks. Like, I'm starting him wherever I have him.
This is an easy guy to start over Tedderell McMillan, right?
Yes.
I think I've got him maybe 1 spot higher.
Oh, okay. I think this game has some tough questions here. I mean, Trey Tucker or Jerry Jeudy?
Tucker for me.
I think you could safely say Tucker. Wouldn't surprise me if Judy's better, but, like, we are still talking about a guy that's got 1 great game and a few duds. He's been better than Jeudy, so that's easy to qualify it that way.
Why is it Michael Mayer a must start?
Chiefs have been good against tight ends, and we're talking about a guy that just had 5 targets.
He had 7. I have him as 7 targets.
Oh,
they threw 22 passes, right? So you figure they're going to have to throw more.
Right.
Well, Heath, you have him as basically a must start. You have him 8th, Michael Mayer.
Yeah, that 8 through 12 range is fluid. But
10th. I'm sorry, 10th now.
Like I said, it just changed.
That was 8th yesterday. It's 10th. Jamey has Mayer 16th. He's a good option, but so is Cade Otton, so is Evan Ingram, so is Zach Ertz, right? I mean, it's kind of a deep tight end week.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, I know. Mahomes is, I think, QB1 for you guys, 1 or 2, something like that. Yeah, so how about is Worthy clearly better than Trey Tucker this week in your mind?
I would prefer to start the guy associated with Patrick Mahomes than the guy associated with Geno Smith.
I agree with that, but I also think they're kind of the same guy.
I have a few questions here from the chat. Xavier Worthy or T. Higgins?
Worthy.
How about Xavier Worthy or Jalen Warren?
I'd go Warren.
I have those guys very close. I think it's probably safer. It's definitely safer to go Warren.
Worthy or Mayer or Mason Taylor?
Mason Taylor for me.
I've got Mayer higher.
Like if you want to talk a guy that's going to get every target in the game, it might be Mason Taylor.
Yeah. Worthy or Teterow McMillan?
I'd go Worthy.
I'd go McMillan.
I had my kids had baseball practice last night, and I had a hitting coach come to work with them team. And the first thing he said to me goes, Mason Taylor, 39.5 yards. That's an easy over.
I hope so. If you were going to take a shot on if you had to, deeper league, injuries, whatever, on another wide receiver in this game, Myers, Marquise Brown, Juju, Tyquan Thornton, who's the best?
Myers.
And
And then to pick your next Chiefs receiver, because they haven't been that bad.
I said this the other day. Like, I'm very curious to see. One of them is probably going to be inactive. So Thornton, Juju, Marquise Brown. It'd be surprising if it's Marquise Brown. So is Thornton or Juju inactive? Now I could be wrong, but my guess is that does Juju play special teams? I'm going to guess no. Thornton might.
Yeah, Marquise Brown's the answer if I had to start one of the other Chiefs wide receivers.
Here's a good question: Worthy or Quentin Johnston?
Johnston if he plays.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the Chiefs DST, as of yesterday, only 78% rostered. They're top 6 for everyone. You should start them. Giants are at the Broncos.
I have to run. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. All right.
Yep.
Hey, Heath, we can do this. Giants are at the Broncos. Broncos are 7-point favorites. Here is a kind of concerning note on Dobbins. In his first game without offensive guard Ben Powers, who's out a while, he's on IR. I think it is kind of a 2-month-ish timetable. It could be a long-term injury for Powers. J.K. Dobbins had his highest percentage of carries for 0 or negative yards. He had his first game with 0 explosive runs. He had 2 explosive runs in every game, had 0. He had his worst game. The replacement for Ben Powers, Matt Pert, committed 3 penalties. So for this week, here come the Giants. They have terrible run defense. But your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins? Maybe it was just a fluke, this one bad game, but this is a guy who catches 1 pass a game.
I do not like the profile very much because he catches 1 pass a game, and in half of his games, he's got 14 or fewer carries. So you really need that rushing touchdown. He should be someone that you rank quite a bit differently in full PPR than you do in non. In non, he's more of a must start. Full PPR, he's more of a low-end RB2.
Would you start Wan'Dale Robinson or Jerry Jeudy?
Oh, Wan'Dale.
Wan'Dale Robinson or Jacoby Myers?
Wan'Dale.
Wan'Dale Robinson or Trey Tucker?
I have Tucker 1 spot higher.
Okay. Dobbins or Scatterbo?
As of right now, I have Scatterbo 1 spot higher only in full PPR. Everything else, it would be Dobbins.
Right. Yeah, because Dobbins, again, not giving you the catches. But this should be a good setup. Home favorite against the Giants' run defense. This should be a good setup for J.K. Dobbins. But you'd start Judkins over him, right? Obviously.
Oh, by a mile.
Would you start... Sorry, let me take a look. Just give a good name. Bill. You like Bill?
Bill over Dobbins.
How about Jordan Mason against the Eagles or Dobbins?
He is right in that same range with Scatterbo and Dobbins. I would start Mason.
All right. But these are good RB2s this week. Scatterbo, he scored 31 points last week. Denver, not an amazing run defense, but they gave up the 4th fewest fantasy points to running backs. I don't know. Scatterbo's insane.
Well, that part is undeniable. I get so uncomfortable watching he and Jackson Dart run because it just looks like they're trying. It looks like they're trying to get hurt.
Yeah, I feel that. Especially Scatterbo. Some questions from the chat. Cortland Sutton, who I assume is an easy start this week, or Ashton Genty.
So yeah, I've got Sutton at wide receiver 15, I think, 14.7 points. I've got Genty at 15.5, so I'd go Genty.
Any news on Slayton yet? He did not practice on Wednesday. If he plays, would that change anything for you with Wan'Dale, with anyone?
That would downgrade Wan'Dale for me from a high-end wide receiver 3 to a low-end wide receiver 3. He'd probably still be ahead of Jerry Jeudy.
Quentin Johnston or Wan'Dale Robinson?
Quentin Johnston, assuming he plays.
Any interest in little Jordan Humphrey, who had 8 targets last week?
It is a revenge game.
It is.
So no.
Okay. Anyone else? Ingram.
And I don't think there's any T in Little Jordan. You call him Little Jordan?
Oh yeah, sorry,
Little Jordan.
Little Jordan. And he's huge. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
Theo Johnson's a sit.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How do you feel about Evan Ingram this week? And then we got to talk about Bo Nix. I got a lot to say about Bo Nix. How do you feel about Ingram?
I am not really interested in Evan Ingram. Like you do have these games where he gets 7 targets. 7 targets is for Evan Ingram's like 7 carries for most running backs.
Yeah.
Probably going to get you around 30 or 40 yards. I actually had 1 game with 7 targets. He's got 2 with 6.
But he has 3 straight games with 6 or 7 targets.
And he has 42, 33, and 29 yards in those games.
Right, but he has 4, 4, and 5 catches. So in full PPR, you're probably getting a 7-point floor. I mean, we never know what a guy's actual floor is, but I think it's fair to say that with Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
No one's too high on him. I mean, the highest, Dave and Jamey have Ingram around 16th, so no one's that high on him, but he's got the revenge factor. I think he played the Giants once, I think with the Jaguars, had about 10 fantasy points. Interest in Troy Franklin or Marvin Mims in this game?
I still prefer Franklin, but no, it's gotten too jumbled up the last couple of weeks. We had a 2 or 3 week stretch where it looked like Franklin was the guy. He's wide receiver 40-ish for me. I would start Jerry Jeudy over Troy Franklin.
Starter sit Bo Nix.
I don't want to start Bo Nix. I think you might have to. I've got him 1 spot ahead of Justin Fields. I would start him over Daniel Jones, but he's not a top 12 quarterback.
Okay, I broke down Bo Nix a little bit yesterday, and I separated him into 3 time frames. One is 2024 full season.
Mm-hmm.
One is 2025 full season, or the first 6 games. The other is the last 9 games of 2024 when he went off. And I didn't even include week 18 when he scored 1 billion points against the Chiefs back.
Some A's are statting.
Yeah. So you look at the 17 game paces, you look at the stats. Right now, Bo Nix is not playing anything like he played in those last 9 games. That was an unrealistic to repeat kind of stretch. But if you look at full season 2025 versus full season 2024, or first 6 games versus full season, it's not that different. He's just a little bit off, like completion percentage a little bit lower, yards per attempt a little bit lower, yards per carry a little bit lower, touchdown rate a little bit lower. It seems like he's about 1 good game away from being back to what he did last year when he was a top 10 quarterback. I think he's close. I didn't draft him at all because I said, he's basically the beginning of a huge tier, and I don't want him. And we've been rewarded for that. But I'm not that down on Bo Nix, Heath. I think he's fine.
Fine is a fine way to describe him.
With big upside, because the Giants give up a lot of big plays, and he has missed on those big plays, but like just barely. I like him more than Fields this week. I think Jamey's got him like back to back, but
yeah, I've got him ahead of Fields.
Let's see who else: Bo Nix or Daniel Jones.
I really feel like I said I would start him over Fields. I would start him over Jones.
Sorry, Bo Nix or Jordan Love.
I'll go Love.
Bo Nix or
I've got Rodgers tonight over Nix.
I go Nix.
I wouldn't argue that one strongly.
Yeah,
there haven't been a lot of good fantasy quarterback performances against the Giants.
No, but the Giants. Oh, here you go. Stat of the game. Giants give up 19 points per game at home, 29 points per game on the road. I don't know. Maybe fluky. The Giants can get after the quarterback. So this team should have a good offensive line, although last week the replacement for Ben Powers, Matt Pert, was terrible, and he committed 3 penalties. But the Broncos should handle the Giants, we think. Denver's DST is top 3. Giants DST. Heath does not like them, but Jamey and Dave have them kind of low end, like probably just not a great week for DSTs, but I wouldn't want to start them. The Patriots are at the Titans. I think this game's a pretty simple one to break down.
Yep.
So do it.
Start Drake May.
Yeah.
No. Looking at the running backs, I would start Ramondre is my favorite running back in this game. I think it's pretty close to a toss-up. between Henderson and Pollard, and Tajay's kind of a dart throw. Looking at the wide receivers, Diggs is the only one that you're considering starting. If you have to start a Titans wide receiver, I'm sorry. Kayshon Bouttie's a top 48 guy, but just barely.
Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry is a borderline top 12 tight end. I think I've got him 13th.
How about Chico Okonkwo? Chico Okonkwo has scored 8.8. He scored 8.8 or more PPR fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games.
I actually have him 1 spot ahead of Henry. So Okonkwo is one of the 17 tight end streamers available.
He doesn't have the route participation rate that you'd like to see. They use Gunnar Helm as well. So we talked about like desperation, Marquise Browns of the world and all that. Do you see a guy in this game, whether it's Boutte or Van Jefferson or Alec Manor, assuming Calvin Ridley's out? Is there a guy in this game that could get me double-digit fantasy points?
So in the projections, I have Van Jefferson the highest of that group because when Ridley went down, he just kind of came in and took the Ridley targets and played the Ridley role. I would think if they have a full week where they know or thinking that Ridley's not going to play, they would draw up some more plays for Alec.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have him 1 spot ahead of Van Jefferson, both of them ahead of Boutte.
I have some questions about this game from the chat, but before we do that, how much do you like Drake May? Who would you start him over? You're actually the low guy on Drake May.
Well, of course I am.
Yeah.
But I would start him over Jared Goff. I would start him over Baker Mayfield. I would start him over any of these guys we've been talking about, Stafford, Rodgers, Nix, Fields, those guys. I'd start him over Jalen Hurts.
Over Goff and Mayfield, huh? Wow. Because look, May's had a lot of success with this type of performance that I'm about to say, but he could throw 25 passes in this game.
Yeah, and I have him. I'm the low guy on him, and I have him 6th. So I don't think that I'm unique in having him over those guys.
I'm sorry. I thought you had him 8th. You do have him 6th. Okay. Dave and Jamey also have him over Goff and Baker Mayfield. Wow. All right. I think I'm going to take Goff and Mayfield over May, but obviously
Mike is dismayed that you're dissing Drake May.
Well, we're definitely taking him over Justin Fields. That's for sure. All right. Chat questions for this game. Alec Manor or Luther Burden?
I would go Manor.
If Moore is out.
If
DJ Moore were out, would you take Burden?
We don't have DJ Moore ranked right now.
And you're still going Alec. Okay. And you're going Alec.
We don't have Ridley ranked either.
Alec Manor or a Broncos number 2 receiver?
I'll take Manor for now.
Keenan Allen, Golden, Bourne. This is not for this game, but we'll answer it anyway. We have to sit one. Keenan Allen, Matthew Golden, or Kendrick Bourne?
Golden's the toughest guy for me to rank this week. I actually think he's going to have a good game. I would still sit Golden.
And Hunter Henry or Taysom Hill?
Thanks, Ben. I feel like Ben should get more questions answered after you were so rude to him before the Saints beat the Giants. But I would go with Hunter Henry.
And just to wrap it up, I mean, a lot of you have Tony Pollard and, have been starting him. Just don't do it. First of all, it's a terrible matchup. Secondly, he's just he's in a committee now. He had 10 carries last week. If they're winning, he'll have more, but they're 7-point dogs. And finally, Carolina is at the Jets. Okay. Stat of the game. Carolina, in their last 2 games, they have held Devon Achane and Javonte Williams to a combined 23 carries for 45 yards. I read an article about this from their website. Dave Canales, their head coach, said the team is setting the edge well. It was a long story about how much better their run defense has gotten.
Yep.
What do you think? Is Breece Hall, without Garrett Wilson, was Breece Hall an easy start for you this week, or are you worried? What do you think?
The hope is that without Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall is going to see more targets. He's been fantastic, Hall. Not necessarily in fantasy production, but just the way he's running the football. He's a top 12 running back for me. I'm starting him.
So if Hubbard's out, you're starting Dowdle over Breece. And if Hubbard's in, you're starting Breece over both of them.
Right.
And if Hubbard is out, then Rico Dowdle is an absolute stud. Start him again. But Hubbard says he's going to play. So what are you thinking about this backfield?
I'm kind of thinking that we're going to get the old, you get a series, you get a series, you get a series, you get a series. And then if one of the guys, like if Rico Dowdle's just still doing what he's doing and Chuba Hubbard's averaging 3.8 yards per carry, then Rico probably takes over a 65-35 lead in the backfield. But I don't think they're going to go in. And the other thing is Chuba said he didn't know how much he was going to play. So maybe this is his first game back and he's just the backup running back.
Yeah. It's really annoying. I kind of thought we were going to get one more Dowdle game. So Rico Dowdle, if Chuba plays, Rico Dowdle or J.K. Dobbins.
I will probably have him behind Dobbins. Again, we don't have Chuba ranked. It was a limited practice yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So a limited practice on a Wednesday for a guy that's been out a couple weeks. We don't have Quentin Johnston ranked yet either. We'll make those decisions before the Thursday night game. But if Chuba is active, I'm going to have Dobbins higher.
And you have Dobbins 22nd. So
right. I would guess I'm going to have Dowdle at 24 if Chuba's active.
Okay. Right next to Jalen Warren.
Between Montgomery and Ken Walker.
McMillan. All right. I'm not going to get into McMillan because we're at an hour and 16 minutes and we talked about him for about 5 minutes earlier today. Heath has him as a number 2. Jamey has him as a number 3. Jamey might move him up a little bit, but not into his top 24. We know the deal here with Tedero McMillan and what's going to happen. He's going to get Sauce Gardner, but not necessarily on every snap. Justin Fields, Heath, you have him 15th. Dave has him 22nd. And look, I know he's had good games with bad receiving core. You know, he's never had like a great receiving core. But even, you know, in the Darnell Mooney days, he's had some good games. But this is awful. I mean,
it's quite possibly, especially if Josh Reynolds is out, I think it may be the worst wide receiver group on a field in a game.
If Josh Reynolds plays, what's your interest level in him?
He is down in that Io Manor Van Jefferson conversation. Probably like someone you might consider in leagues where you've got multiple flexes or you're really just destroyed at wide receivers. Sneaks into the top 48.
If Reynolds plays, would you rather start him or Jalen Coker?
We don't have Coker in the rankings yet either, but probably I'd go with Reynolds.
All right. I kind of like that. I like the opportunity for Coker. We don't know how much he's going to play. And then Mason Taylor. What are we thinking about him?
The definition of a borderline tight end 1 last week was obviously very disappointing, but if there's no Josh Reynolds, then he probably moves up just a little bit. He's still like, which of these guys do you want to rank Mason Taylor higher than? He's at 12 for me, and I kind of want to rank him higher, but do you want to rank him higher than Tucker Kraft? Do you want to rank him higher than Michael Mayer? Do you want to rank him higher than Harold Fannin? Do you want to rank him higher than Dallas Goedert, K. Doughton, Travis Kelce? Like,
I would go.
He could be better than those guys, but I don't have him ahead of them.
If Evans plays, which we're expecting, I would start Mason Taylor over Otten. I would start Mason Taylor not over Fannin. I don't think I'd start him over Goddard. Not over Kelce. But there was one other name you said.
Kraft?
Not over Kraft. Oh, Mayer. I would start over Mayer.
Yeah.
But it was really a dart throw. All these guys have such good opportunities this week.
And Kraft has been like, I know you guys talk about him tomorrow, but what a disappointing role he's had after a spectacular start to the season. Since his week 2 blow up, 4, 5, and 2 targets.
You called him a sell high after that week 2 blow up.
There we go.
It's a good call. You like a DST in this game?
Oh, who are we even talking about?
Carolina and the Jets.
I'm starting to think that maybe I should have Carolina's defense ranked higher.
Yeah.
I don't like the Jets. I'm going to move the Panthers up, and they are going to be 14th.
Okay. And Bryce Young is about 18th for everyone.
Yep.
And that is it. Yes, Taylor over Taysom Hill. Boy, Ben loves Taysom Hill.
In fairness, Taysom Hill scores touchdowns.
He does. Theo Johnson or Mason Taylor from the chat?
Taylor.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Carolina's D or Jacksonville's D against the Rams?
I would go with Carolina's.
And Bryce Young or Sam Darnold?
I'm going with Bryce Young. I don't think this matchup's very good for Sam Darnold.
I'm going Darnold. He's just so good. And Fields or Wentz? Last question.
Fields.
All right. We're out of here, folks. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow with the NFC home games on Fantasy Football Today.